Hi, I'm Lisa Bagshaw, and welcome to Bold Leaps, the show that interviews creative, inspiring, successful people about the risks they've taken to pursue their dreams. And today's guest is illustrator, designer, writer, activist, queer artist Jaik Puppyteeth. Jaik Olson grew up in the small bucolic town of Radium Hot Springs with fearless parents who believed Jaik could do anything he wanted to do. As a little boy, Jaik was always fascinated by vintage cartoons and ads. He loved to draw from an early age and even sold his art to galleries in high school. After high school, Jaik carried this belief in himself and took himself to Vancouver to attend Emily Carr to pursue his dream of being an artist. But the dream shattered when, after 4 years of art school, Jaik had no phone and a fairly hefty drug problem. He left himself no choice but to drop out. But the astonishing thing is, a year later, in his early 20s, Jaik got sober, quit his day job, committed to his art full-time, and went back to Emily Carr to finish his final year. And that's when his career skyrocketed. Puppyteeth's brand of bold, beautiful, absurd characters in various states of peril, driven by, in his words, an acute sense of self-loathing, shot him and his unique style of art into internet fame. Jaik, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's so, I think it's an interesting story that I saw your art and your name be mentioned on CBC Gems, sort of. Mm-hmm. And so I took myself down to Chinatown to find your gallery.
Yeah, you're banging on doors trying to find me.
I banged on doors. I finally found you, and I was so excited to sit down and have a coffee with you. And I'm so thrilled that you're here because I think...
Yeah, I live on the internet, so it's rare to find me in real life. So yeah. You found me, and now I'm here.
I know, I'm so excited because your story is actually so inspirational. So what I want to start is, it sort of seems like a story to me of kind of clawing yourself back into getting onto your path and what happens after that. So what made you decide to go to art school in the first place?
I knew I wanted to do something creative with my life, but it was kind of a toss-up between doing something that might be more saleable for getting a job, like an arts degree in literature or writing, something like that, instead of a fine art degree, or going for graphic design or something like that. But I really didn't want to do that. I've always been a playful person, and I never really wanted to have a real job. So I needed to mold my life around how I could do that, earn money, and not have a boss was my 3 goals. Mm-hmm.
And so you went to Emily Carr?
Yeah, I applied for one school, and if I didn't get in, then I was going to find something else to do. So I had never been to Vancouver before. Calgary was the closest big city to me, so that was kind of a lot smaller, and I wanted to move farther away from home. I didn't want to go to school in Calgary. I wanted to kind of get a bit more distance between me and my hometown.
And so that's a big step, going from Radium Hot Springs to Vancouver. Were you living alone and going to art school?
There was a ragtag group of us, all from my hometown, and a few of them were going to Emily Carr, a couple of them were at UBC, but we all just lived in this house together. So it was kind of a nice buffer between moving from such a small town and moving to a big city, that I had some people around me who I knew.
Well, that's nice at least.
Yeah, it was helpful. How
did you find life at that time? Was it, because it was 4 years that you were at Emily Carr?
Yeah, I was too young to go to art school. Mm-hmm. If looking back, if I could do it again, I would have taken a break between high school and university, but I jumped right into it, and I have a late birthday, so I was 17 turning 18 when I moved to the city. Wow. And yeah, it was just kind of a bit overwhelming getting thrown into that. So looking back, like I said, I could have gotten more out of my degree if I had been a bit more mature, I think.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it's a very young age to be embarking upon something so huge and by yourself.
I feel like it's kind of forced into the school system to get into university right away. and to apply right out of high school. And I think that should change. I don't think that that's really the best thing for a lot of people.
I agree. I had this thought the other day that people should go to postgraduate school or after high school in their 40s.
Yeah, like I don't think that you know what the hell you're doing when you're 18. So I think that there should be a little bit more of a gap.
So did you find that it was quite a struggle then, that period of time, those 4 years?
Oh yeah, I got addicted to drugs so fast just because I was living so fast and free and thinking that I was getting sold the idea about what being an artist was, and just kind of living large and, I don't know, being as outlandish as I could be. And it was fun, but I think, like I said, I think that I could actually have had more of an academic career. There was a lot of people I went to school with who took it more seriously than I did, for sure.
Mm-hmm. But you clearly weren't ready for it.
No.
And you had so what made you drop out after 4 years?
Oh, I spent all of my money. I was so poor. And I realized that I needed a break. I realized that I couldn't really focus on what I was doing. There was one semester where I got terrible grades because I was kind of, instead of making art, I was seeing how little I could do to get a good grade. So I was like, that's kind of what I was exploring with, was what kind of topics I could touch on that would make people not be able to critique me. So like getting very personal about like really personal experiences in my life. So you couldn't really give me a bad grade if I was making art about that. So it could be really bad art, but the topic was so, we can't really fault him because he's really exploring this territory. So that was my approach to art school.
That was sort of a strategy then?
Yeah, laziness and trying to kind of how to formulate that and just do as little as I could to get a good grade.
So you took a year off,
Mm-hmm.
which sounds smart to me.
Mm-hmm.
And what did you do in that year off?
Well, the way it was structured at Emily Carr is you could be in the grad show and still have a couple of credits left to do. So I graduated. I could have gone to the convocation. I didn't because that does take too long. And I didn't want to be walking across the stage. But I could have graduated, like been in the graduation, but not have my physical diploma because I needed one more credit. So I needed to take one class. So it took me a year to get my crap together to actually sign up for this rinky-dink, like it wasn't even like a real course. It was like pop culture, kind of like studying the art of being cool or something like that. It was like a really easy class to finish, but it took me a year to actually be able to get my diploma.
Everything that you did in your life to get yourself back to art school is really massive. How did you feel once you had accomplished all of that for yourself personally, and then being back on campus and being back committed?
It was kind of satisfying to actually finish my degree. One factor that drives me a lot in my life is spite. So I'll do things because people say I'll never finish something, or I'll never do this, I'll never get sober. And the only reason I'm sober is because somebody said 9 years ago, oh, he won't stay sober. Like, I would love to be drunk right now, but they said that one thing and here I am.
Well, and thank God they did. Thank God that drives you.
Yeah.
We have to take a break. But when we come back, I'm going to ask Jaik how he felt once he graduated from art school and the inspiring way he reached internet fame when we come back. Welcome back. I'm here with Jaik Puppyteeth having a wonderful conversation about your journey. You were just downplaying it quite a bit to have, as usual, to have overcome what you overcame, your drug addiction and everything, and going back to Emily Carr and completing your degree. How did you feel once you actually woke up the next day after completing your degree?
I was super happy. It was kind of one of those things that I just needed to check off my to-do list. And I know I downplay a lot, but I feel like making light of things and bringing levity to situations is what I bring to my work and how I live my life also. So it's something, I don't really like to think of things as being such a huge accomplishment, but now that you're saying it and framing it that way, it is a big deal, more of a big deal than I've ever really considered it to be.
Well, it really is, because most people, okay, say they're not ready for university and they don't handle it well. But for you to actually make the massive changes that you made and overcome whatever you needed to overcome to complete it, and then carry on in your life, it really is massive. So what do you think's behind that? Did you have a strong sense of purpose with your art, or?
I realized that I was at a crossroads where it was between making art or getting sober. There are a lot of artists and creative people who can be drunk and high and be productive, and I'm not one of those people. So it was either take my art seriously and get sober and be able to make stuff and be productive and earn a living, or continue down the road I was on. And my drive to make art more consistently and less erratically was really what I needed to do. So that's what made me focus on that.
Do you think that some of that belief in yourself that you could do it came from your parents?
I think so. I was always kind of raised to be able to do whatever I wanted to and have a sense of responsibility in myself. They taught me a lot of, yes, there's support there, but you have to be self-motivated. And especially working for yourself, you need a lot of structure. And I'm not a very structured person. I'm kind of more loosey-goosey. So I feel like in my life, I've needed to kind of really hone that quality in myself to be able to be driven and pursue my dreams without really anybody propelling me but myself.
And so you were able to draw upon that and adapt some discipline?
Yeah, discipline's a good word for it. I'm not a very disciplined person. I would probably be benefited to have somebody in my life who was more of an A-type personality who would kind of crack the whip and get me doing what I should be doing. I work a lot better when there is a deadline. And in my life, there aren't a lot of big deadlines. So just kind of making stuff for the sake of making it is hard sometimes. But I have to do it and talk myself into it sometimes.
You're very open about your cynicism and angst and self-loathing, and you're able to channel that into your work.
I feel like we're all just kind of trying to outrun the apocalypse right now. And that's the kind of the way I live my life. Like the world could end tomorrow and it is what it is. I'm not like a doomsday prepper, but I feel like people need to have a bit more levity in their lives and kind of embrace the way that the world is going a little bit more and get a little bit more realistic about the road things are going down.
But you add so much humor.
Yes.
I find your work, while I'm wearing one of your
my sexy pumpkin pinup shirt.
Sexy pumpkin pinup. Your work is very humorous.
I like it to be a little bit cheeky.
Yeah.
I like it to kind of toe the line between being offensive and being lighthearted and kind of playing with societal ideals a little bit, a lot about heteronormative ideals, like what a nuclear family looks like, kind of turning things like that on their head. That's always been kind of one of my focuses, and also death. Like I'm very fixated on the idea of death and the afterlife, and the Grim Reaper is like an image that I always come back to as symbology basically for death. I'm really into that.
And I love that you express it. I think this is part of you that is so unique. Now, where did all the internet fame come from? What happened there?
I think I kind of got on Instagram when it was a little bit of an upswing. It's kind of on a downturn now. The internet, I feel like, is more video based now. But when I started, it was the drawings I was doing were just very graphic, black and white, kind of very memeable content. So a lot of people were just sharing it like that. And I was sharing it without even putting a face behind it. So it was just kind of, I think, the anonymity and not having a person. I wasn't really promoting myself as a person, as an artist. I was just kind of basically a meme account, but it was original art. So it was kind of merging those two worlds together. And I think it kind of just hit at the right time.
And why do you think your work resonates with so many people?
I think people like to laugh at the futility of existence a little bit. I think I kind of say things that people are thinking but aren't necessarily saying or wouldn't say, but sharing a drawing that says it in a speech bubble kind of gives them permission to be able to say those sentiments but not coming directly from their mouth. So it's kind of a little bit of a buffer.
And your audience is massive.
I think it's shrinking now because I've been lazy for so long on the internet. I feel like I'm at a point where I'm getting past the digital world. Like I don't feel as much satisfaction or anything from it. And because of that, my audience is probably starting to shrink, which isn't good financially, but I don't really care.
Well, there's still huge, people are still getting tattoos of your work. I mean, there's a huge cult following for you too.
Yeah, I think that cult following is a good description for it. I do a few mainstream-y things, but I am very homegrown. The scale that I do things at isn't at sellout level, but I would love to sell out also. I'm not above that.
So since you're graduating from Emily Carr and this whole process to this day, when did you know that you were going to be okay?
When I first started out on my own, I don't know if I'm going to get audited from this. I was throwing a lot of illegal parties at my studio space. I don't do that anymore, cops. But I had a safety deposit box full of cash that I was making as a safety cushion, basically throwing these raves at nighttime. And I was sober, so I was just having to sweep up these raves at 7 a.m, mopping the floors and kicking all these drunk people out. But I was doing that to basically make enough money to start my business and have a little bit of a cushion there where I knew that I wasn't going to be destitute and I could kind of earn this easy money throwing late night stuff, art party kind of vibes, and then make my art in the daytime. I just needed a little bit of a cushion at first to be able to see how much I could earn doing art full time and then throwing those parties a couple of times a month just to make sure that I was going to be okay.
That sounds really smart.
Yeah.
Well, we have to take another break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask Jaik how life is now and the importance of self-care in his life and what advice he has for those of us who are too afraid to pursue our dreams when we come back. Welcome back to Bold Leaps and my conversation with queer artist Jaik Puppyteeth.
Hello.
Hello. So now, how is life for you now after all this crazy internet sensation, international acclamation, everything? How is it now?
It's good. The pandemic kind of taught me that I don't need to be living in a city. So I bought a building in the woods and I'm going to renovate that. I have been renovating it for the past year and a bit. And eventually it's kind of my exit plan from the city. I'm going to have a live-work studio, hopefully run artist residencies, local markets and things like that, and just kind of get out of the hustle and bustle of Vancouver. Making art's always been the most cathartic thing for me. So even when I'm stressed out, I can always doodle something and kind of release some tension, which is good. I feel like that's kind of meditative for me.
Is art healing for you?
If I liked the drawing at the end, it was very healing. But if not, then it was totally not worth my time.
Do you use the angst and all that and to create?
I think so. I think I'm quite desensitized from living in the downtown east side for so long, but I feel like there's probably an undercurrent, a subconscious undercurrent of angst that's just in me at all time from being in the slums, essentially, that I feel like probably informs a lot of what I create, but I might not even acknowledge it.
That's a very self-aware thing to say. We only have time for 2 more questions. What would you say the biggest lesson is you've learned?
Have faith in yourself, believe in what you're doing. There's always going to be people who say that you can't do what you're doing. And like I said, spite is a great motivator. So that'll keep you going.
Would that be the same advice for, what advice do you have for people who are too afraid to pursue their dreams?
Well, either you're going to die or the world's going to end relatively soon. So you probably should just take the bold leap and do what you want to do and take a chance. And if you fail, try something else, try it again, but don't be too hard on yourself. There's a lot of ups and downs, and just kind of focus on what you're passionate at always, no matter if you're failing at it. Just kind of take stock of what's important and reapply yourself to that.
And what is most important to you?
What's most important to me right now is trying to find a new outlet for my work that's a little bit more personal and in person, take myself off of the internet a little bit more, and seeing how I can kind of be successful as what I'm doing, but have less of a presence on the internet, because I feel like it's kind of poisoning people's brains a little bit, just online culture generally. So I want to kind of get back to doing more things in person and being more offline.
And what would that look like in terms of your art?
I don't know yet. Hopefully something in that big shack in the woods is going to help me.
Well, that sounds like an incredible vision, and creating an artist community. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I know I say I'm not a doomsday prepper, but I'm also saying I just bought a shack in the woods. But it's going to be something magical, I know, but I'm not quite sure what it's going to look like yet.
Well, I can't wait to find out. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. This interview is way too short. I could talk to you about so many things. And I really want to thank you for the very unique art that you do produce, and the fact that you did claw your way back from a very hard time, and you are on the planet at this time producing this humorous and disturbing, what are your
It's a good word for it.
Gory, smutty, wholesome art.
Yes,
that
all those things.
Yeah, that you just can't take your eyes off. So
well, thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much. Well, that's it for another episode of Bold Leaps. Thanks for watching. Check us out on YouTube and social media for more inspiring stories and updates. Tell us your bold leaps in the comments. Special thanks to our sponsors. And remember, every step you take is a step toward your dreams.